What's going on, guys? It's TipDik here, and well, last weekend we had our second Netplay tournament in the Custom Robo Discord, and I just want to make a quick recap video talking about that tournament and the rules and just sort of what I thought about the whole thing. And so here's the bracket. It was a pretty small bracket, only a few people entered, but it was still a lot of fun. I wound up winning the whole thing, so we would go me. We did it, boys. Naga Strike came in second place, and in third was Go For Broke. And I think that some people may have considered this to be an upset, the fact that Naga wound up actually double eliminating Go For Broke, because this boy, let me tell you about Go For Broke, that man is always on the grind, constantly. He's getting really good, but Naga beat him. It was 2-3 in their first set in round 2, and I definitely recommend checking that out because that was super cool and super close. Set 2 versus them, he made a quick 3-0 by busting out the wave laser, which I guess I'll talk about here in a little bit. After I played against him in the semifinals, everybody else went to bed, and we picked up the tournament the next day. And me and Naga practiced a little bit, and he determined that wave laser on Metal Bear is pretty ridiculous because you can just stun them until they're about to be knocked down, then hit them with that charge attack for so much damage. It's like literally half of your life bar is insane. But I'll talk more about wave laser in a minute, trust me. So I guess the first thing we'll talk about, I'll just go down the rules and give, I guess, a quick critique of the rules. So we'll look at the stage list. Our starters that we used were High Rise, Robo's Room, Flower Garden, Loading Dock, and Practice Stage, which I think overall is a pretty good starter list. All those stages seem fair, seem relatively neutral. I wouldn't complain about that at all. And then for counter picks, Crevice Court, L Formation, Castle Citadel, Little Loco, Checkmate Founder, Castle Keep, Sudden Death, and No Man's Land. And I think this is pretty alright. Definitely better than the previous list that had like Deadline on here. I don't think that stage was okay at all. All these stages, some of them I don't like so much, like Castle Citadel, not a fan of. Checkmate Foundry, Sudden Death, and No Man's Land. To be fair, a lot of these stages are growing on me the more that I play them. No Man's Land just feels like the stages are just whack because there are no walls like at all. But I feel like you almost have to have it on here with some of the other stages that we've got, because like Little Raiders are actually really fucking good on No Man's Land, but when you've got things like Castle Citadel and stages like Checkmate Foundry where Little Raiders can't do anything at all, it almost seems like a necessary evil to have No Man's Land on here. Sudden Death, I used to not like it. I have to admit, it's pretty fun to play on here. You'll notice Diamond Fences is missing from this list. I feel like that would be a perfectly acceptable stage. Zach thinks he can circle camp on that stage, and maybe. I feel like a lot of matches on that stage do tend to run long and sometimes go to time, so I can understand reasoning, but I think it's less egregious of a stage than something like Checkmate Foundry for sure. There was some mention about potentially putting these two, Crevice Court and L Formation, as starters and having a 7-stage starter list instead of 5, and I think that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I think that would be, I guess I feel pretty neutral. Like if it stays the same, if the list stays the same, I wouldn't be mad. If we got 2 new starters, I wouldn't be mad. So it is what it is. There was this rule that we had for what was it called, the losers list, which I thought was really weird when I first read it. So pretty much, it's not like Smash, where like the winner bans a stage or bans 2 stages or whatever, and then the loser gets to pick from the whole entire like gamut of stages that are allowed. it's like the loser picks a certain number of stages. In this tournament it was 3. Before we had 5. So you pick 3 stages, and then the winner bans one of those stages, and then the loser can pick from the remaining 2 stages. And I don't know, it seems really weird on paper, but when you play through it, it's pretty nice. It kind of like speeds up the counter picking process a little bit, it feels like. And you don't have to, like, let's say that you don't want to play on No Man's Land because there's no walls and it's just fucking whack, right? You don't have to waste your ban on No Man's Land just because you don't like it. And then they can take you to wherever they want that's going to be good for their robo. Instead, it's like you have a much smaller list to choose from when you're selecting your ban, so it's much more often that you're going to have matchup relevant stages to have to use your ban on rather than just something because you don't really like it. So that's something I like about the losers list, but it was definitely rough. A couple of times Naga Strike would put Sudden Death and Robo's Room on the same losers list, and it was really rough having to pick between those 2 stages. In the first set that I played versus him, it was like he just beat me in like 20 seconds by doing that. And when we went on to Robo's Room, second set we played, I switched to Wave Laser real quick and wound up winning that. And so maybe it's not so bad that you can force somebody to a small stage, because it just means that it forces players to have to be versatile with their weapon choices and be able to use something that's going to be good on every stage. So maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about the pick 3 ban 1. We did a pick 5 ban 2 before, and like it was pretty cool because we pretty much always just went to neutral stages. But I can understand why you might want the loser to have some type of advantage. So it is what it is. Something else I wanted to just add, I skipped over this a second ago. It says players play paper, rock, scissors to decide who is going to get the first stage strike on the first game, which normally I think would be perfectly fine. But when you consider that we're doing an online tournament, it's pretty hard to like do rock, paper, scissors in a fair way. The best way I can think of is to DM a third party and tell them what your choice is, and then he says who the winner is. And it's kind of just slightly annoying having to have that third person involved. So normally the way I handle it in all my games, I just asked, I said, hey, do you care who strikes first? And if my opponent said yes, I want to do it, then I would let him. And if he said no, I don't care, I would always definitely strike first. But it's not that big of a deal. So going down into the rules a little bit, the illegal parts are something I definitely want to talk about here. So Wave Laser, I said we were going to get to it, and now here we are getting to it. So Wave Laser, I think, is kind of a little bit crazy. If you look at this, at the results, Go For Broke versus Naga Strike was a very, very close 2-3 in their first set, and then he switches to Wave Laser and gets a 3-0, right? My grand final set versus Naga Strike, it was a very close 3-2. He won. He was using Wave Laser, by the way. He won. It was very close. And then next set, I switched to using Wave Laser all the first 3 games, and then I just take it. So, yeah, Wave Laser was a very strong gun. I think there's definitely some counterplay to it. You'll see a lot of games I took off of Naga Strike in both winners finals and in grand finals, and I used my Aerial Beauty plus Sniper combination to sort of just stay outside of his range and punish him for trying to take, like, shoot me with the Wave Laser. So there definitely 100% is counterplay for it. You know, it's short range, it's got a lot of lag, but it also is extremely powerful. As you can see, it really swayed the tide of the tournament in a couple of sets. And so kind of begs the question, I guess, is Wave Laser too good, or do we just not have counterplay for it developed yet? There have always been things in the metagame, I feel like there's always something that we determine is like broken or OP, and then we just find counterplay for it. And in some cases, like, I'll give you an example. Me and I used to think that Lightning Sky plus Afterburner was broken with booster legs, and you would just fly into them and drive by with your Afterburner and do 1,000,000 damage and then just run away to safety. And about 2 or 3 years ago or whatever, we used to do that a lot playing against people locally, and they just couldn't deal with it. And then eventually we found out, oh, all you have to do is not throw out a move and dodge all the shots and then punish them on landing, and then like it's not even good to do that strategy. And we also thought like Hornet Gun was broken and OP and you can't win versus it, and then we find like Go for Broke using high jump legs on his aerial beauty to sort of trick the targeting on it, you know, because the vertical tracking on Hornet Gun is not actually very good at all. So we always find counters to things that are dominant in the metagame, and I wonder if Wave Laser is one of those things that we could find counterplay for as the metagame progresses and we just don't have it yet, or if it like really just is too good. Zach777 Zach said he didn't understand really what the big deal about Wave Laser is, because the range is so short and it's kind of laggy, and you could just use like Splash Gun, for example, and do the same sort of thing where you shoot them until they're about to get knocked down, and then you hit them with your collision attack. And like, yeah, you can do that, but there's definitely a really big difference between Wave Laser and Splash Gun. The thing with Splash Gun is that like you have to win neutral a lot more consistently with it, and you also have to be really spot on kind of with your spacing in order to combo with it. You know, with Wave Laser, it has so much hit stun, like so much hit stun that let's say you go for a trade, as long as you don't get knocked down, you can recover from your hit stun while they're still in hit stun and pick your combo back up. And so you don't even have to win neutral, you just have to like throw your face at them, take the hit, and then like just win the game that way. The other thing is, like, you can see in some of our matches that we had, Wave Laser, like you could jump over a wall, shoot Wave Laser at him, fall back behind the wall, and if you hit him, you have time to jump over to the side that they're on and pick your combo back up. And with Splash, you just can't do that. You have to, as soon as you hit him, you have to be spaced properly to hit your collision attack, or else you just don't hit your combo off. So Wave Laser is just a lot better. Rahu 1 gun isn't really that good. It's way fucking better than the flare gun that it's based on. It does a lot of damage if you get a sweet spot, and it does okay damage if you don't even get the sweet spot, but it doesn't knock stuff down really unless you sweet spot it. So you can kind of do a strategy where you run head forward into it, you tank the close-up hits, and then you just retaliate with some like whatever punish you want really, and you can just win by going for that kind of trade versus Rahu 1. So I don't think it's that bad. Waxing and Waning Arc, like I pretty much use these in every single one of my matches. I don't think they're necessarily broken, but I worry about them becoming centralizing, because anytime that I want to use a bomb that's not Acrobat Bomb, I see very little incentive to use something that's not Waning Arc. You see, on Aerial Beauty, I think it's probably better to use Crescent P, in some situations, but like the waxing and waning arc is just so good. The speed is like so, but it's relatively fast, has some gigantic explosions that help you deal with opponents who hide behind walls, and if you use it in conjunction with Wave Pod, it's just ridiculous the amount of stage that you can cover in explosions, and it lets you back your opponent into corners pretty easily. The set I used it on, I never mentioned what I even used for the tournament really. I used a glaive with needle, waning arc, wave, and short thrust legs for the majority of my matches until I eventually switched needle to wave laser for the final set. And my other robo I used was Soul with sniper, acrobat, bomb, speed, D, pod, and then raven legs, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, but back to the illegal parts. Grand cross bomb, I don't even really think it's that good. It's fine that that's allowed. As for the legs, swallow doesn't even seem that good. It combines two of the like least used legs in the game, which are the formula leg and long thrust. And I feel like there's some matchups where it's a good counter pick for it. A lot of people say that it makes what are those called? Shining Fighters actually viable, and maybe that's true. I still don't even think they're good with swallow legs, but they're probably better than they are without swallow legs. I will say that. And then raven legs. These guys are extremely fucking good. Okay, I use raven legs in literally every single match that I played in the tournament. Raven legs are kind of insane. With aerial beauties, you're able to have so much height and aerial mobility with it that you really can dodge a lot of stuff very easily. I don't think any other player like took advantage of raven legs in the same way. I think Naga may have used it on his glaive, but I think definitely aerial beauties get the most benefit out of it, and they were already becoming like very strong in the metagame. So I don't know about raven legs. Like nobody else seems to be complaining about them, so maybe I should just shut up. But I definitely think that if Go for Broke had taken advantage of these, rather than using high jump or whatever he likes to use on his aerial beauty, he would have had a better chance versus Naga Strike. Okay, that's pretty much it for the rules of the tournament. There was one other thing that popped up during the event, which we've kind of known about for a little while, but nobody really talked about it that much. So a few months ago, I was playing versus Go for Broke, and just friendly matches on Netplay, and he would say he was complaining that I was always able to pop out of the queue before him, and I tried to tell him, I was like, yeah, no, you definitely just have to hold the A button. You don't have to match it. You just hold it, and then you can get out of there a lot faster. I never knew that. And he said it still wasn't working for him, and it's hard whenever you're playing on Netplay to really address a situation like that on what's going wrong. So I didn't really think a whole lot of it, but it's been in the back of my mind for a long time now. And whenever I went over to Naga's to play my winners finals, and I was player 2, I definitely noticed that like he's always able to hatch out his queue before me. And so whenever I went and played the grand finals versus him, I said, hey, I'm not using that sucky pickaxe. I'm going to definitely be player 1 this time. And it really reversed that, and I was able to get the launch advantage majority of the time. And so this has us, we've been talking about it in Discord, and we're going to need to revise these rules for taking into account that player 1 has a definite advantage. And I think there are a lot of ways in which you could potentially balance that, but that's not really the focus of this video. I've already been talking for like 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna wrap it up here. give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and definitely come into our Discord and try and figure out when we're having our next one. I would love to have start seeing a little bit bigger tournament turnout, because it's a super fun game. But anyway, that's gonna be it for now, guys. See ya.